I want to talk a bit. Hey, you know what I got really into instead of sleeping the other day? You know what I spent like 4 hours figuring out, like in the early hours of the morning? Federated social networks. So remember how, like, when Elon Musk bought Twitter and people were like, fucking, we gotta start finding an alternative. And maybe during that you heard of a site called Mastodon, or a thing called Mastodon is like a Twitter alternative. And then maybe you looked at it for 1 second, you go like, I don't know. I did too, just as out of curiosity, because I'd heard about it. I heard it was something federated. I didn't know what that meant. I tried to look up some articles on it, and nothing really like explained it in a way that I think I understood it, but not really. Just randomly, because of the whole Reddit blackout, because of the API thing, you might have heard about it. There's a bunch of useless fucking internet protests going on at Reddit right now, and that will amount to nothing. But it has caused more interest in alternatives, namely alternatives that get away from large central businesses owning an entire social media, owning an entire public forum. And that's where federated social networks come in. And I actually put in the work to try and understand it, and I think it might be the coolest thing I've ever heard of, ever. So, let me sell you on the federated internet model. Here it goes. And mind you, I'm not a guy who cares about new stuff or trendy things, and I don't care about technology, which I think I've established before. I don't care about technology. All technology besides medical and like environmental things could halt tomorrow, and I would have no problem with it at all. I'd be 100% content. I don't have to go to Mars. I don't care. I want to sit and play video games. So, here's the idea. So, let's walk through the process. So, the idea begins with someone is like a coder. Let's say I am a developer, right? Excuse me. And I want to make an alternative to Twitter. So I write the code for a social media website. Twitter is called a microblogging website. That's what it's classified under. I write the code for a new microblogging website similar to Twitter, right? And then I release that code as a package on GitHub, making it free open source software. Then anyone can take that software and download it and use it to make their own server of, let's call it Cellar World. Sure, let's call it Cellar World. And you can make your own Cellar World server with its own like URL. Let's say I take mine and I take my own software and I make Taigen dot Taigen dot I'm trying to think of something funny. Vin Diesel. Yeah, Taigen dot Vin Diesel. So that's funny, right? All right. I make Taigen dot Vin Diesel, and that is my server, also called an instance. And people can go to that instance, and they can make accounts on it. You can make your little at BigBoy92 on Taigen dot Vin Diesel, which is built off of Cellar World. Okay? Now, you're like, okay, so what's the point of that? Anyone can make a little server, but so what's the big deal? Where does it go? Here's where it goes. So other people can take the same software, make their own servers. Now here's the cinch. Here's what makes everything connect. So you guys know, I'm assuming everyone listening to this has an email. Well, you know how you have, like, for instance, a Gmail account, right? An @Gmail account that's on the Gmail email server. Gmail email. But you can still send and receive messages. You can still send and receive emails to non-Gmail accounts. You can send things to someone who has an Outlook or a Yahoo, or people who have their own like personal email servers. I knew people who would have, like at the Robinsons or something for their family. They had their own family email server. That's because email servers can be built using so-called protocols. There's, I think, 3 main email protocols, and pretty much every email server that you'll ever run into is going to be using all 3 of them. Protocols are basically, I guess, in simple terms, they're like systems for sending and receiving information. Now, I have built Cellar World. I've coded Cellar World using to use a protocol, which in this case, we're going to use the real term here and not like dumb example names I've come up with. ActivityPub is what it's called, the ActivityPub protocol. That means that anyone who makes a Cellar World server can interact with any other Cellar World server. Interact meaning you can follow someone who's on a different server. You can see their posts. You can like them and repost them, retweet them. And as soon as anyone on your server interacts with anyone from another server, that server, that instance is now indexed by your own, and it'll start showing up in like your global feed, and you can like, you can be recommended posts from those people, for instance, if you choose to like go on that feed. Now here's where it gets really, really good, okay? Here's where it gets crazy. I've been talking about one single software this whole time, Cellar World. But say someone else wants to make something that's similar to Reddit or another different, microblogging, Twitter-like platform. Well, with a little bit of work, as long as both of those softwares are using the ActivityPub protocol, they can be made cross-compatible, or just one-way compatible. Not all of them are cross, like two-way. They can be made cross-compatible, meaning that you can be on your Twitter feed, where your Twitter feed, and be seeing posts from subreddits that you follow, for instance, that kind of thing, which is like really trippy. And if someone, so let's say you're on, so let's start using the real terms now. So the 2 main Twitter alternatives, I guess, or 2 of the main ones that I know of are Mastodon, which if you've heard of any of these, it's probably that, and Pleroma. Now, so what I did is I found I can make an account on Pleroma, on a Pleroma-based server, and then I can search for people who have Mastodon accounts, or accounts on Mastodon-based servers. A little complicated, but, stick with me. I don't think it's that crazy. And I can follow them, and I can see their posts. You can see, so it's not actually 2 separate competitors. It's not actually 2 separate softwares effectively, like for the user experience. It doesn't have to be 2 separate softwares with 2 different user bases. It can actually be one cohesive thing because they're both using the same protocol and they've been made cross-compatible with each other. So I can follow a Mastodon account from my Pleroma account. I can't log in to a Mastodon server because I don't have an account there, but using my like Pleroma credentials. But I can still follow and see those posts from Pleroma with the Pleroma interface and everything. Isn't that cool? Isn't it fucking cool? And so here's the other thing. Here's where it gets, where in effect, as a comparison to the current model, I am really interested in this. So all of these. So okay, a lot of people when they were first, I think, heard about Mastodon, including me, I thought it was like, okay, I'm on like the Mastodon website, like mastodon.social is where you'll probably find. No, Mastodon is not a website. Mastodon is a software upon using which Mastodon is a software you can use to make websites, to make like a Twitter type website, and run that as like as a server. The reason it's called like the biggest federated instance is called Mastodon.social. That's because it's like the closest thing, all like Mastodon dot whatever. There's like a Mastodon.xyz or something. That's like the closest thing to like an official Mastodon server. It's run by they're usually run by the developers. So here's the other thing. We're gonna get into the upside then the downside. All of these servers are privately owned. They're owned by just whoever starts them and who is the admins, right? And the servers are paid for by those people, meaning that there's no ads. There's no advertising on any of these. See, traditional social medias, all the big centralized social medias, Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, I guess, YouTube, they all have to be supported by advertising. And I probably like other stuff, but mainly advertising, and also venture capitalist dollars at a loss, universally at a loss. Investor money at a loss, government subsidies at a loss. With federated networks, you don't have. Imagine taking the server maintenance costs of Reddit or Instagram or Twitter, and instead of being, one single company having to foot the bill, you're spreading the cost across like 1,000. Maybe hundreds of thousands of people, of different server admins, and you realize like individually, not that expensive. If you have a little bit of hobby money, some of these servers will take donations. If you care, I can imagine that maybe some of them will eventually have advertising integration, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary to offset the cost. It's for a lot of people who have the drive to begin a server, it's probably pretty sustainable for them to pay like probably $10 or less a month for at least some of like the smaller type ones. Like I can't imagine running a Twitter a Twitter type microblogging thing is that crazy expensive. I haven't looked at the pricing yet. I did see that there was there's a software for basically making a podcast platform, making a podcast-based server like for audio content. It's called like Podcasto or Castapod, something like that. And server cost, like the most basic plan is like $3 a month, and that gives you like unlimited audio uploads, which is crazy. Like, I can't imagine this stuff is that expensive. So it's way more sustainable. It's way cheaper for people than there's no ads. So then we get into like some of the potential downsides or hazards. And to be fair, there are some, but I think a lot of them are things that already exist with traditional social medias. So, for instance, servers are not owned by a big company, right? It's not a big corporation. Servers are just owned by individual administrators, like a small team, perhaps. Obviously, because, it's giving power to the people. Oh no, giving power to the people. oh wait, people can suck. That's absolutely possible. But I'm also thinking like, well, how different is that from excuse me. I'm like, how different is that from just like the current landscape? Like, is it that crazy different from some kind of like power tripping mod on Reddit or horrible YouTube customer service that treats you like you're the scum of the earth and fuck you for even trying, kind of thing? Is it that much worse? And you actually have the upside of like, you can choose where you create your account. Like, for instance, the one that I made a little account just to try it out on a Pleroma based instance called it was called FGC.network. And I check it. I've checked it a few times every day just to keep up. I'm not a poster. Hang on, I'll get to that in a second. And I did that because, well, one, it's like, okay, it's like a fighting game community focused thing, obviously, from the name. But it's also, when I just looked into it for a second, it started by, it was founded by the same guy who founded and maintains the Super Combo Wiki and is the current maintainer of the Mizumi Wiki. A guy called Shiba Zoo or something. And I was like, okay, well, if there's anyone who's going to, I feel like I can trust to maintain a server, it would probably be these guys. Probably be these people. Because they run very well-made community wikis for fighting games. I feel like I can trust this a little bit. Because that is the danger that, like, well, someone can just close a server, right? Close an instance, and everything's gone. It's all gone. Your account is gone. A lot of these don't have like super easy account migration. I think the only one that really does is Mastodon, where you can move your account to a different instance. So there is a little bit of like, there's some risk involved in investing into a community that could potentially just shut down tomorrow. At the same time, again, how likely is that? As if you choose a decently sized instance, probably not that likely. It's equivalent to like, okay, well, Reddit headquarters and all of their backup servers around the world, sinkholes open up underneath them and they're swallowed by the earth. The main, you can still, even if that happens, you will probably, if you've posted stuff there, you've probably lost a lot of it. It can't be recovered, but it's not like the service as a whole is gone. You can still make an account on another instance, and just continue on from there. I'm hoping that in the future, most of these will have ways to migrate your account. I think that would be really useful. And hey, if you're on a server, so the other thing is like, okay, well, unreasonable admins, they've blocked. So you do have some control as an admin over what communities you can interact with. So you can have a filter list, basically a blacklist of like, okay, anyone who comes from these places, anyone who has an account on these, instances, just will not show up even if we have like a point of contact. They will not show up in like recommended feeds. They will not show up in the like known network tabs that some of these have. A lot of them will have like 3 different tabs, one for people that you follow specifically, one for posts just from your local instance, and then one that's like the global one from every single posts can be from any server that anyone on this server has interacted with ever, kind of thing. So if there's just like the way that works is that like if you're on like even a mid-sized server, you probably have contact with like or exposure or connection to like most of the network. all you need is one point of contact, and it's indexed, right? Yeah, so like there's potential for that. You could, and if you don't like that, you can make an account on a different server that doesn't have those, and then just follow it there. Just follow those things there. You have a tremendous amount of freedom as a user over what your experience is like, and God. So there's like 2 different Reddit alternatives, right? The main ones right now, Lemmy and Kbin. They're cross-compatible with each other, meaning that I can make an account on a Lemmy instance, because maybe I like Lemmy's interface more, but then I can follow Kbin subreddits. Kbin calls them magazines. I can follow a Kbin magazine, a community on there, and it'll show up in my Lemmy feed, and I can browse it from my Lemmy instance. And then like look at posts and leave comments and reply to people and make posts to that community and all that. All you have to do is just to find it is go to your local instance and just type in the URL. Just copy paste the URL from the main or from the one that you're trying to go to if it's on a different site. A different software, right? Or a different server. It's really easy once you get the hang of it and you figure it out. Yeah, so what are the big things that are I think that this is, okay. I think that the more that I learned about it, I was like, this is gotta be, it's like the mirror of NFTs and like Web3. Where Web3 was this big, the hype around it from all those annoying people was that Web3 was going to be the future of the internet. It's going to be the future model. And everyone, I feel like, who was reasonable looked at it and said, this fucking is stupid. This is dumb. You guys are lame. And it did not pick up. Federation is like the inverse of that. Where I feel like I was looking at it and I was like, this is the model. This is the model that I want the internet to have. I want this to take off. It also, they have a shared problem of the people who actually understand how these things work are really bad at explaining them. They are really bad at putting into like simple terms how they work. Like once I figured it out and I got through the initial like what is going on? Can I log into this? Can I not log into that? Once I figured out how it actually works, I was like, okay, this is actually not that crazy. The problem right now that's holding it back is, number 1, education and just people not knowing about it. Number 2 is a lack of people and content. So there's some decently sized communities. There's like a couple, you'll find a couple on, Lemmy, for instance, who have like 20,000 subscribers to their community or whatever. Like, that's pretty good. What it needs really, that's kind of an outlier. There's not too many that have, it needs way more people and it needs way more dispersion across more of the network. Specifically, it needs power users. It needs people who are willing to dump posts upon post into these things to provide content for people. Specifically 3 things, okay? Specifically 3 things. It needs memes, artwork, and pornography. All of those. It needs more. It needs a lot of it. Because social media, people will like sell social media as like, it's a way to connect with people around the world. And like, yeah, it technically is. But really, the way that most people use social media is that it's an all-purpose time filler when you're bored. And you're like, what do I do? I'm bored. I'll look at my phone for a few minutes. That's what people use it as. And it needs more. And what are the universal time fillers? memes, artwork, and porn. Things to make you laugh, things to make you go, ooh, that looks nice, and things to make you go, ooh, that looks nice. That's what keeps people coming back and engaged and building it into their habit to check the social medias. What I'm saying sounds very predatory right now because that's just how social media works. Buddy. And like that's legitimately what's holding it back. What I think is the big thing holding it back. And it's a very, like, it's kind of like reading. I used to be like, oh man, reading's so hard. Reading's so hard. And then I actually started reading a book. And I was like, actually, reading is super easy. Reading books is really easy. It was just because school made me think I hated reading. And it made me dread opening a book because I didn't give a fuck about what was happening in it because it was a signed book or something. And it burned me on the whole medium so badly. And then you actually start reading stuff that you like. And you're like, wait, hang on. This is actually really easy and pretty enjoyable, too. It's kind of like just engaging with any other medium, like listening to music or watching a movie. Where was I going with this? It's like, it's the hurdle is starting. The hardest part is starting. And when I say that in regards to Federation, I mean quite literally, like, there are people who would be really down to just dump a bunch of shit onto these platforms, but how are you gonna do that? You have to like start. If you have the people, okay, you would have to like start a community. There's enough existing community. What it needs is it needs mods. It needs people to come in and start communities and to start instances. And people don't want to mod. Not that many people want to mod, I don't think. I don't want to mod. Once the gate is open and someone's taking care of that and someone's modding and maintaining a server or an individual community or something like that, then that's a lot easier. It opens the path for like power users to come in and post a bunch and add value to those communities. That's really what it needs. So when will that happen? I don't know. The nice thing is that these are not companies. This is, I think, the best thing about it. It's been this interesting process on the internet. The internet began as a highly decentralized place where everyone just kind of made their own thing and it was separate and you could link to each other, but for the most part you were owning your own domains and things like that. And then the money came in and people were like, what if we had places to bring all this stuff together? You get some really good things, like you get places like Wikipedia, or other larger wikis, places to like, instead of having a bunch of separate websites to look up geology for your school project, what if you had one website with one web page dedicated to combining all this knowledge and information with citations, and it was the one-stop shop, the centralized dictionary for anything, and it could be updated. Oh, perfect. Money idea. Wikipedia is like independent. It's like relies on donations, so it's a little bit of a weird example. But then you got things like Facebook, I guess, is like a bit of a weird. It's also a bit of a weird because it was just like, hey, a social network. It was like a big novelty. Oh my God, Facebook, MySpace. You got these places where you can talk. I guess just more developed versions of stuff like IRC chats and AOL and things of that sort. Blogs. Yeah, it's kind of just blogs. It's like a centralized place for blogs, if that makes sense. You got places like Reddit, which is like, hey, how about instead of having 1,000 different forums, what if we had one website that you could make little sub-forums on for specific communities? Boom, money, kind of. That is was the trend for the last 10 years about, YouTube. one place with all the videos instead of just uploading it to your own little website where no one's going to see it. One place with all the videos where you get recommended other people's videos. Wow, everything's together. Everything's in a big network. And then the capitalism thing started happening where these got really big and business interests, and the founders start moving on to different, greener pastures. And then changes start happening and they get more out of touch with the user base, and it becomes a big fucking nightmare. And oh wait, actually online advertising wasn't as lucrative as we thought it was. Oh no. We have to rely on investor money. We have to make these stupid decisions. Oh no. All of this information and this gigantic platform can just be purchased by fucking Elon Musk, an actual fucking idiot. An actual idiot who thinks that the word cis is a slur. Dude, the first thing I thought of when I heard that, there's this old Norm Macdonald bit from his podcast where it's from like 2015, right? Which I think makes this very impressive. It's from like 2015. He's got this like Irish comedian on, and it's from his podcast, and the whole Norm Macdonald podcast is him fucking with his guests, playfully, I suppose. And he asks him at one point, would you consider yourself a cis male? And the guy looks at him. He's like, "What is 2015? Remember?" And he goes, "A what?" He's like, "A cis male. I guess MALE. Would you say you're that?" And he goes, "What is that? I don't know what that means." And Norm goes like, "Well, you were, born like as a man, right?" And he goes like, "Well, as far as you know, yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, as far as I know, and you identify as a man to this day. Is that right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I still do consider myself a man." And Norm goes, "And that makes you a cis male." and the guy goes, "What is the?" Because 2015, he goes, "What is the purpose? Why does this term exist? What are you talking about?" And Norm goes, "It's a way of marginalizing a normal person." Fucking love Norm. Every trans person I've told that joke to finds that fucking hilarious. And I get the first thing I thought of was Elon saw that and he took it a little too seriously. God, it's so funny. I don't want to go on a whole Norm Macdonald side tangent to this other tangent. It's so funny to like watch that. I rewatched that clip because I was reminded of it. And it's so funny to go down in the comments and see people who take Norm Macdonald seriously on anything he says. It's so funny. Like, oh yeah, this is the point in time. This is the moment he's gonna take a stand, and for the first time in his 40-year career, make social commentary. He's like the least social commentary of any social or political commentary of literally any comedian, which is shocking for how horribly offensive his material is. He really was just a fucking living bit. His entire life was devoted to being a joke. I love Norm Macdonald. Nothing he said was ever serious. And these fucking guys come in, they're like, yeah, he really knew that it was he recognized it for the slur it was. Like, oh my god, you're the type of person he would make fun of. Dude, if someone said that to Norm Macdonald, it's a slur, he would probably just go really hard with really, I think that's a little insulting to the real, I think it's a little insulting to the honest racists in the crowd or something like that. He'd probably drop a hard R or something to fucking shock the shit out of you. Yeah, anyway. That shit can't happen with a federated network. You can't just buy... There are, developers, right, who develop this software, and I guess they can add worse features to it. But like, if they do this, remember, this is all open source. Someone can just make a fork of the software that just doesn't have those features. And then I don't know if you could like maybe I don't think you could replace the server, but there's at least like alternative. It isn't just like Twitter made it. YouTube made the thumbnails have rounded corners. Fucking, I guess I just have to deal with that now as someone who makes thumbnails for my job. No. There is an alternative. You're not just fucked. A single website, a company that has to justify paying its graphic designers and its UI designers, they can't just fuck you over as a user anymore. That's like one of the great strengths. It's decentralized, but it's also, or federated is the better. When you say decentralized, it brings up like Web3 crypto stuff, and that's really not what this is. Federated, right? That's the term. It's federated, but also because of the protocol, because of the nature of how the protocol works, also connected. It's separated in very key ways. The ownership is separated. Oh god, is this a commie thing? Oh, that's why I think Lemmy's run by, the developers of Lemmy are all like fucking militant communists. They're all like tankies. They're fucking kind of weirdos. But like, hey, you can just make a fork of it, or just start your server on an instance that is not run by them, which there's many. Or you can just use Kbin and browse Lemmy communities from Kbin. See, isn't that awesome? Imagine if Elon Musk bought Twitter and you didn't have to put up with his shit at all. What if you could just ignore him and get all of the same content from Twitter without his shit? Wouldn't that be great? You could do that. It's separated in very key ways, but it's connected in the important ways. And I think that's what's great about it, is that if it actually gets off the ground and enough of the projects get to a point where they're actually really polished, because unfortunately a lot of them are a little they're a little rough in interface and functionality. They're missing lots of features that modern centralized social medias have. But once they get there, and I think they will, because this is all just like these passion projects, I think they will, I really do. Eventually, a few years down the line, it's not ready yet, but I think it will be. I think it will be, and at that point, it will be at a point where for the user experience, it is almost the same. Like, you have to pick, a server. You have to pick an instance that you like, that you trust, for instance. But I think even with that, there'll probably be servers that are run by larger, maybe like a company or some kind of like community that's very trustworthy, right? That you can trust they're not going to shut everything down, something like that. So you don't have to worry about, the security of your account or all that. For the user, it would be almost the exact same like barrier to entry as regular social media, which is creating an account. There's one more step to creating an account, which is finding an instance, which for most people is too much. But if you make the process really easy and just remove that barrier, if there's enough people, the content will be enough that it could be an adequate replacement for the current kind of like paradigm of centralized social medias. I think that landscape, the future, my utopic federated future, I think it would be so good. I think it would be so much better. I think we'd be living it up, man. We would have it so good. I'm so sick of these fucking companies getting bought out and being controlled by investors and shareholders, and feeling like, also because it's like my job is one of these, right? And I honestly, I don't think that there's ever really going to be a federated replacement for YouTube because video costs, like server costs, are too high for that. I genuinely, there's one, it's called PeerTube, and I think I saw one. I was looking, all the major instances say like, yeah, there's like 5 gigabytes of upload storage per person. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, it's not happening. I think after that you might have to like pay or something. It's not happening, dude. I'm sorry. But like having you, I hate. I'm gonna be honest. I love YouTube. I really do. I love this website in so many ways. It's such a big part of my life. I really do. There's so many people that I would be a completely different person if it weren't for YouTube. And I like the person that I am. I think YouTube is really good for me in a lot of ways. Beyond paying me, right? But fuck, I hate this company. I hate them as a company. It's like when you're really proud of your country, but you hate your government kind of thing. I love YouTube as a platform. I love so many of the people here. I love so many of the communities on here. And I really mean that genuinely. And YouTube gets so much shit all the time for being a shitty place. But really, there's so much good stuff. And if you just know how to control like what you're shown and what you see, and you just interact with creators and communities who are like cool, and you try not to get sucked into horrible algorithm wormholes, there's so much wonderful gold here. And then just this garbage shit happens company side, right? Like official side, and it's like god damn it, you know? God damn it. If I could live in a world, and I guess I don't think YouTube's ever there's gonna be a true federated alternative to YouTube. I might be proven wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I doubt it'll happen. But if for all the other sites, you know, if we don't have to deal with Reddit being assholes to their, the volunteers who moderate their website and pricing app developers out of APIs so that people can use the shitty Reddit mobile app that sucks and just shoves ads down your throat because it misses the idea of the original Reddit, which is that it's just like a bunch of forums and it's about forum communities, and they're like, no, it's got to be like Twitter and we're going to shove 1,000 ads down your throat. Hey, guess what? Not going to happen with federated servers. It's not going to get to that point. I guess like maybe individual admins of large instances could be bought out, but hey, just move to a different instance. It's easy. The whole thing isn't fucked. You can just move. You can just make a new one. We can rebuild. Such a better model, such a better long-term model, so much like consumer, average user friendly, no ads, none of that shit. God, I want this to take off so badly. I want it to take off so bad. I can't say that like you as a viewer, as a listener right now, should switch over to a federated thing. Consider checking one out, you know. There's big, again, it's content, right? There's a couple of ones that you could find that have some decent discussions and stuff like that. I've been kind of going a little 50-50. What helps is that someone made a bot. So someone made a bot on Lemmy that you can post to it. It's like it's a bot that runs its own community, and then you can post to the community the name of a subreddit on Reddit, and then the bot will automatically make a community that on Lemmy that will just grab posts from that subreddit and just repost them as like as it works the same way as like an RSS feed. Only title and post. It's like only title and like text content. You have to go to it includes like a link to the original post if there's an image or if you want, or a video, or you want to read the comments or something. But like you can browse Reddit specific communities. So then you can then follow that. It makes a community that's just a repost community from a subreddit, right? There's a lot of layers going on here. And then you can follow that on Lemmy, but actually, because again, cross compatible, thingamabobs. You can be on Kbin if you like Kbin more, and whatever you don't. I don't like the developers of Lemmy. I am going to support Kbin instead, and then you can be on Kbin, and follow Lemmy communities that are reposting stuff from Reddit. It's insane, but it works. You can have it all from one place. It's fucking crazy, but it works. I've been kind of going 50-50, and I'm really, I don't know, I'm rooting for it. I myself am not like a power user. Like, I'm just kind of a lurker and a browser. Maybe I should I'm so anti making my own little community thing outside of YouTube. Maybe I could make like an official cellar, like a thing, like a cellar instance, or so not an instance, sorry, an account on an instance for a cellar thing, like a Pleroma instance, a Mastodon one. Who knows, right? Maybe I can make one somewhere else. And in the future, all of these can have some form of cross-compatibility. It can be built in, which is cool. I'm waiting a little bit. I'm waiting to see if it develops a little more. I think it will. I think this Reddit thing has introduced a big wave of new users to Lemmy and Kbin. More people are getting informed about the model and all that. It'll be slow, but it's also like, again, not a company. None of these are companies, so they can't like fold. They can't go under. So there's not really a risk to investing into it in that sense. It's not like, oh, well, Dig is going to get fucked. Remember Dig? They're going to get fucked and just die. I think they're still alive as like a weird zombie. That's not going to happen. The projects will keep trucking on, and in maybe, let's say, the next 5-10 years, I think they could really be at a point where they could supplant the current model